Hello and welcome to Mr. Walker's Chemistry. Just starting off this series with a quick video on how to use this video series so that you guys can get the most out of it. Alright, so if we go through here, let's see, we can see that I'm going to try and answer 3 different questions with this video. Firstly, what is this video series for? Why did I bother to create these videos, and how do you, this is the big one, how do you use these videos? Because if you can't figure out how to use them, then they're not going to be that helpful. Alright, so really focus in on how you think you can use these videos. So first, just an introduction here, what is this whole thing for? Well, I've got a title up here, which is, of course, helpful, so you know what slide we're on and what we're talking about. So this video series, again, is for you to learn chemistry. I can't emphasize that enough, that this is to help you learn the chemistry, and it's really as simple as that. By having these videos, you can go back and watch them, you can learn stuff, you can, see what I'm talking about, and it frees up a lot of time for us. So, just as an example, by the end of this first marking period, this comic should make sense to you. Right now it probably doesn't make a lot of sense to you guys. If I bring that forward so we can get it over everything, and it might make sense to some of you, but hopefully by the end it'll make more sense to you guys, and that'll show that you really learned something by doing this chemistry. Okay, so on our next slide here, why, again, it's to help you, and really, notes are boring. Nobody wants to take notes in class all day, every day, so this frees up a lot of time for us when we're going to do chemistry. And so it allows us to do more labs in school. We can do more things. If I don't have to take time to tell you guys, this information that's in the videos, then that of course leaves us more time to do labs where we can actually see what's going on and what I was talking about in the videos. Definitely more time to help you guys with your math. I find that while you guys coming into chemistry usually have a good background in algebra and geometry, it's hard to apply it. You guys have to learn how to apply the math to the science that we're doing. And that's really where math becomes practical and useful, is when you're applying the math to a problem in real life, such as chemistry. How do we know that this reaction will take place? How do we know how much of a chemical we need in one place or another? And by giving more time and practice for that, we can really step up our game here. And finally, more activities. It's so much more fun when you guys can get up and do stuff, or make stuff, draw stuff, explain stuff on your own. And this just, again, by taking these notes that you guys are seeing out of class and putting them on YouTube, where you can rewind, fast forward, rewatch, etc., we have more time in class for all these other things. Alright, so then how do you really use these videos the best? That's why we're doing them, but how do you get the most out of these? So I'll talk about 3 things. I'm going to talk about the text. What should you look at when you're reading this? What should you try and write down? What should you remember? The second thing is my voice. Okay, I'm saying a lot of things that are not on these slides, so you need to be able to pick up on that. What am I saying, and how does it correlate to what is on our slide here? And finally, putting that together. That's the big thing. Putting the voice and the text together into one thing is huge. Without that, it's going to be a lot harder for you to, figure out what it all means. And so it's important that you're able to put everything together. Alright, so the first thing, a text. I'll use lots of visual cues as to what you should be learning. Bold, caps, and underlines are things that I can do very easily, very quickly, and it really shows you, what to look at. It pops out on the page at you, and that's important for vocabulary, that's important for definitions, that's important for learning. And so by having this pop out at you, you guys can see, like I say here, you know, these are the important words. These are the things that I want you to learn. You know, so we'll go through this video and you're going to start seeing more bolds, more caps, more underlines, and it just helps you remember and see what to focus on. Also, if you're ever going back and rewatching these videos, if you're fast forwarding through it on YouTube, you know, or something, then you can, and you see a bold word, you can pause it because you know that that's probably something that you should take some time and really read instead of just blowing through. Alright, so on our next thing here, okay, more stuff. Again, I have a title. We usually have these, okay. You can see down here I've put, you know, it'll always have a title of some kind, and this is what we should be focusing on here. So you can see that this is a slide that, you know, is continued. So it says up here, you know, it says continued, and I will try and keep doing that. Alright, and you know, this is something I said before. Modified words or vocabulary to know something to do with the topic, which is usually the title. So finally, I will use color. Okay, you know, you've seen some color. I don't think that there's too many slides so far without some type of color, and that's just to enhance the experience. I'm not sure that color really means a lot. The bold, the caps, and the underlines really have more to do with the, you know, stuff to see, but I will use them in combination, as you can see here, and that is just so that everything really, you know, pops out at you, and you're not just seeing the same boring black and white over and over and over. Alright, so now the voice. You know, as you read this text, I'm going to be saying stuff. I usually don't read the text word for word. Alright, you guys are in high school, you're taking chemistry, that's not really something that I think is fair to you guys for me to just read the text. However, anything that is in text or anything that I say is fair game. Alright, so do note that, you know, anything in text or voice is fair game for a quiz or test. So if you need to rewatch the video 4 or 5 or 6 or 20 times to get everything that's in the text and everything that's in my voice, do so. Okay, this is why, you know, I've created these videos, is so that we can repeat as many times. A lot of people don't get chemistry the very first time. It is a hard class. So by having these things done over and over and over again, it sticks a little bit better, and it should help you when you review or learn. Okay. While I'm on this slide, though, you'll notice that I've kind of been putting these pictures in the corner, and way back one of the other slides I pulled the picture up. This is something that I will do from time to time, where I'll just have these pictures kind of in the background, and by having it in this format I can pull these up, make some bigger, make some smaller, bring them forward, send them back, whatever, to really emphasize them and talk about them. Okay. So, you know, as I was just saying, a lot of times I will have these pictures on the sides where I will pull it up. So, for example, you know, if we're talking about how to use my voice, well, I'm going to use this, my mouse and this picture, to really emphasize stuff. So I will talk about pictures, give examples, or emphasize. The emphasis will just take some learning. You'll have to pick up on that. I've done it a few times in this video where my voice just kind of, I say the word maybe a little bit slower with a little bit more volume to it, and so that really shows emphasis on the word. Alright, so here we've got this picture, and if we just practice, this is a picture, kind of a diagram of an atom, and you guys will learn about this in one of your very first, I guess, so to speak, real videos where you're learning chemistry. And so I can pull this up, and when I circle things with the mouse, like this is an electron going in an orbit around the nucleus. All right, I emphasize the word orbit there because that's a vocabulary word that you will learn and should know. So then you're going to learn about electrons and what's in the nucleus and why these balls are different colors. And so by using my voice along with the mouse, you can see what I'm talking about. And it'll just take you a lot of practice to realize, what do I need to write down? What does he expect me to know later? And you can always ask me in class, you know, hey, Mr. Walker, I wasn't sure what you meant by this, and can you go over it more in class? Sure, no problem. Okay, so putting it all together, how do you effectively take the notes? As I said, it's just going to take practice, okay? There's no substitute for practice. Just like in sports where you have to, practice throwing a ball or shooting a basket or whatever you're doing in your sport, running, etc. You have to train your brain, okay? And training your brain takes time. This is not going to come to you right away, but I hope that over the course of the course, you learn and you start to see how you can get faster and better at doing these things. And it should really help you. And this is a benefit that you don't get in class. In class, I say it once or twice. We cover it once or twice over a couple of days. And that's it. It's gone. If you didn't pick it up right then, poof, I can go back over it when we review or do one-on-one help before or after school, but this way you can get help whenever you want it. I mean, if you're up at 2 a.m. and you can't sleep for who knows what reason, load up YouTube, start watching chemistry videos. They might put you right to sleep, but you can always go back and watch it if you do fall asleep. Okay? So I will circle, it'll do things to help give you clues. So, circling is a big one. Pointing, I've already used some arrows. Those will help. I do have other types of arrows here and lines and all sorts of things that I can draw as well to help you. I will usually just use the pen tool though, because you can see sometimes with these I have to rotate them and I can't always get them exactly where I want them. So I'll usually use the pen and different colors or different types of lines to really show you what I'm trying to do. Okay, and I may use pictures, I might try and draw things. So again, we can practice. Here's a picture, I can pull this up, I can bring it forward so that it's in front of everything here, and you can see we've got part of the periodic table behind this beaker with a couple of test tubes and some blue liquid in them. And so there's my voice, and now to go along with that, I'll draw stuff. So I'll pull up the pen here, and I'll say, this is the periodic table, this is a beaker, and these are test tubes. Okay, so it really, you can get the whole experience with this. Okay, so with practice, you can write down. Okay, writing down stuff is important. Don't just idly watch these videos. Okay, write stuff down, and you'll eventually remember the examples and start being able to use these things effectively. If you ever feel like I'm going too fast in these videos, pause it. Okay, I'm not going to care if it takes you 3 hours to go through a video. If you think it's going too fast, too slow, pause it. Take the time, rewind, etc. Remember, this is to help you, okay? You are the number one thing for these videos. This is to help you learn everything. So if you're not learning it, then go back and see if you can find a way to learn it. And if you really can't, come see me in class. So let's take some practice here, okay? Let's see if you are really getting out of these videos what you should be able to get out of these videos. Okay, so practice. Do you remember why these videos were made? It was in this video. It was part of the notes. So, do you remember? Take a second. Think about it. Okay, so let's go back and take a look. See if we remember. So I can click on this, it'll take us right back up here. All my notes are still in place. Okay, so this was the slide that said, why did I take these time? Alright, mostly to help you. Nobody wants to take notes all day. It gives us more time for labs, more time for math and practice, and more activities. Alright, so if you didn't remember this, you could probably go back to the point in the video, just rewind, look at it, remember it, take some new notes, etc. But let's scroll down here. Let's see what maybe some notes would look like, because I don't expect you to write down everything that's on this slide. That's just silly, and it's really not going to help you to write down, mostly because that's useless to you when you go back and study. What's important, again, things in bold, underlined, colors, things I highlight with the mouse, that sort of stuff. So what do you think your notes might look like? Well, you should always include a name. Okay, names are important. Yes, they might be your notes, but if you loan them to a friend, something like that, you want to get them back. A title for your notes, something about what the video was about. Okay, this one was a fairly simple video that I didn't expect you to take notes on, titled How to Use These Videos, and they are notes. Okay, the date that you took them, alright, I just put in a random date here. This is doesn't have a lot to do with anything, but there you go. And then, so the topic, why videos instead of lecture in class. Okay, so why videos? To help you learn chemistry. That was the main point. Okay, so when we go back to the slide up here, we can see that the main point was to help you learn chemistry. Okay, so that was our main point. That might be something you want to put on a line by itself. And then the bullet points we could summarize into a sentence here. Okay, I'm just going to start erasing some stuff. There's no need for it to all be up here. So more times for videos like labs, projects, activities, etc. This was something that I bullet pointed out on the slide. No need to write them in bullet points yourself, okay? Save some paper, save some space. Just put more labs, more time, more activities. Very simple, summarizes it, not a whole lot to it. Alright, and then an example. I said a couple of times in this video that chemistry is difficult. Alright, there's no two ways about it. It is one of the harder classes that you can take in high school, and that's for many reasons, but I think that these videos will really help you learn chemistry, and it'll really help us in class. Okay, so this way I'm more available to you in class, and instead of you trying to struggle through or be tempted to cheat on a very difficult practice problem at home that I might have assigned for homework in the past, you can just go on, watch the video, and then in class we can do the difficult stuff when I'm available. You can just raise your hand, call me over, and really do it. And then of course we get the labs, which really let you see chemistry happen. And I can tell you that chemistry didn't make sense to me until I really saw this stuff in action. How do rocket ships work? Why do we have to eat even? Okay, that seems like a biology thing, but it's all chemistry. It's biochemistry, but it all breaks down to that stuff. All right, so I hope that you really take the time to look at this video and see what all this stuff is about. Alright, this was how to use this video series. There's going to be a whole series of videos, and I hope that you can use them to your best effect. Please come back and watch this at any point if you feel like you've forgotten maybe how to use these videos effectively, or you just need a quick refresher.